championships very often, so this is a true treat for me.
Yeah, I wonder if he's playing. I wonder if he's playing Zapdos.
He has
on
been
the left.
recently,
Okay,
yeah.
That would make a bit more sense.
Yeah.
Kind of states the name. I guess that kind of puts a little bit of a target on your head. It's like, oh, guess what he's playing? But
Zapdos guy.
Yeah, right, he's a Zapdos guy. But even if he is playing Zapdos, it'd be interesting to see what kind of variant of the deck he's playing, whether he's gone with a more Thunder Buddies list or whether he has decided to go with the Pikachu Zekrom build, which we saw Isaiah playing in the last round.
All right, so our players are shuffling up, getting ready here for round number 4 from the Europe International Championships. Draw their opening hands. We'll see if they find a basic Pokemon, and we can kick this thing off.
Yeah, so it's a case of just waiting to see, once we get a better view to see what's kind of in their hands, we'll have a bit of a better idea as to what kind of decks they're playing. There is a mulligan, I believe, on one side. So there is a mulligan. So that's why you will see a dice being put on the top of his deck, which means that he will draw one more card for his turn. Round 4 deck lists are in. Let's have a look at what they are playing. So Josh is going, he's going for a Zapdos variant, which
what a surprise!
To be expected. So, but yeah, he has gone for a Zapdos variant here. He has actually got 3 fighting energy in his deck, which means that he's playing Lucario GX in there as well. So that might be his counter to things opposing Pikachu Zekrom GXs, as well as things like Zoroark as well. Fighting is quite a prominent archetype in this format for that reason. So, yeah, otherwise nothing too interesting. Does he play the Pikachu Zekrom GX? He does not play Pikachu Zekrom GX in there. Just opting to go the fighting and to play Lucario.
Right, yeah. This is a deck that he's played pretty recently, and we do have the players shaking hands, so we'll kick off this round pretty soon. Yeah, he's actually taken this list to a couple tournaments, so not too surprising to see him stick with the Zapdos and Lucario GX build.
Right, and on the other hand, we have...
surprise.
we have, to say the least, we have a Buzzwole GX deck here, which does feature Weavile in there as well, and there's 2 Jirachi. So, yeah, I mean, this is, I guess, something that we did not prepare for in that respect. I guess that's to be expected with other Japanese players. But, yes, as you can see, we'll see how this unfolds. Who has the advantage here? I guess on Josh's side that he is playing Zapdos, which means that he does... Well, Zapdos does have the resistance to fighting, which will certainly help him out in this matchup. And Weavile is also fighting weak, which he does have Lucario GX in there as well. So, and here we have the prize cam as well. So that one Lucario is actually in the prizes there.
So shiny. Everything is gold.
But he has the... so if he chooses to go for that Lucario GX, I mean, that will be in his prizes, so that might be a bit tricky. But nothing really too much value. 2 lilies in there, but...
The Beast Energy Prism Stars in there, that could be very game-changing, having access to that plus 30 damage from that Prism Star card.
Right. So just waiting to set up here, and there we go. There is the handshake. They flip over their active Pokemon. Let's see what we are working with here. So
like that is... Buzzwole GX?
Is that a Buzz? Yes, that is a Buzzwole GX and a Lone Jirachi on Joshua's side.
Yeah, so at first glance, this does not seem to be a good matchup for Takuya. Zapdos is really good against Buzzwole decks. Like you said, it resists fighting, so Jet Punch isn't very effective against Zapdos. It'll do 10 damage and then 30 damage to a bench Pokemon.
Right.
It's not very good, especially because you only get 1 prize card for knocking out Zapdos. So right off the bat, that doesn't look very good, but we'll see if Takuya can craft some ways to rack up some knockouts and take a game.
Absolutely. And after the last round, I am ready for anything to happen at this moment. I mean, anything can happen in this round. I mean, we assume that there is a type advantage here. We will wait and see how this plays out. I'm sure Takuya has some surprises up his sleeve that we're not aware of. There is Stellar Wish for 5 cards. There is Lily, which... be interested to see how many Lily, whether he goes for the 4 or just a 3, because he does have 2 prizes. 2 prizes at the moment. He goes for 3, has 3 in his deck. So we managed to draw out the 1 Lily that is remaining. So there goes Weavile as well. Weavile. There goes a Sneasel to the bench, which will opt him or give him outs to getting a Weavile in the next turn, should he want to go down that route. But yeah, so actually choosing, I mean, he's chosen very quickly to look through his deck and try and work out the contents of what his deck is. Usually a lot of players at this moment choose to really, there goes an escape board, very gold there. Yeah, and what is he? Oh, he's going for a Lily here. Okay, so he's maximizing Lily, going for the optimal 8 cards here. That was 3 cards that he had in his hand, so a pretty decent setup to say the least. He can't attack this turn, so he will probably most likely keep that Jirachi active. Nope, he's going to retreat, going to Buzzwole, interestingly, waiting to soak up that damage.
Yeah, exactly. If you're going up against a Zapdos deck, leaving Jirachi there is almost giving your opponent a prize card. You might think that having your Buzzwole GX take 80 damage also isn't good because that's going to lead to a 2-hit knockout, but Takuya does play a lot of healing cards like Acerola, Max Potion, so he looks to be very well equipped to deal with these kind of 2-hit knockout decks that cannot do enough to take down Buzzwole GX in one attack. And one very interesting thing is, when you see the Sneasel, the first thing you think of is Weavile with Evil Admonition, just 50 damage for each Pokemon with an ability your opponent has. He's actually not playing that one. He's playing the Rule of Evil Weavile that does 60 damage to each Pokemon that has an ability. So he is really bringing some crazy stuff here. I don't think I've really seen this deck before.
Absolutely. And from Joshua's side, actually, he's probably going to be very cautious about putting down Pokemon with abilities, like just random Marshadows with Let Loose, because that will rack up the amount of damage that Weavile can hit for. So that's certainly something. I think it's more of like a mind game at this point, is just at least having Sneasel on the bench, knowing that that could potentially be an out. Joshua will certainly be thinking at this moment to try and preserve maybe the amount of Jirachi he's going to put into play, or maybe the amount of Marshadow that he puts out. But there is Volkner. He goes for the 1 Lightning Energy and the Escape Board. Let's see. He's benching the Riolu here. I don't know if he's checked to see his prizes, because that 1 Lucario is actually in his prizes here. But yeah, he's going for Stellar Wish again. Let's see what he gets. Everything in Joshua's deck is just gold. It's just
as shiny as it can be. Maximum rarity.
Yeah. But and there goes an Ultra Ball. So,
although, sorry, one of his Jirachi is not a pre-release promo, so gotta dock him one.
Well, I mean, he's done well to get as many as. I mean, that's a really shiny deck that he has there. But well, he's going shuffling his deck. I think he's choosing not to play the Ultra Ball just yet. Just wait and see where he goes with this. But I don't even know where this match is going to go at this moment. I have no idea in terms of, I guess Josh is more favorable, but it's kind of a weird matchup, especially when you don't know too much about Takuya's deck.
Yeah, and a rough start. He will not be able to get a turn 1 attack. Usually with these Zapdos decks, if you go second, you're really hoping to get that turn 1 Thunderous Assault attack for 80 damage, but no, just has to pass the turn after Stellar Wish. Has to attach a fighting energy to his Riolu. Just not a good spot to be in. Right,
and there goes the Weavile, so the Weavile is on the bench. Brooklet Hill is there, so he has access to gaining more information in his deck, as well as searching out more fighting-type Pokemon if he wishes to go back into his deck and do so. It might be an option to deck thin as well, if he wants to use Stellar Wish to draw more cards. See what he's opting to do here.
Yeah, the Jet Punch from Buzzwole GX combines really well with the Rule of Evil. He could, for example, Jet Punch, hit both Jirachi for 30 damage, then later on clean up with the Rule of Evil, 60 damage to both of them, and take a 2-prize turn.
Right.
Looks like he's opting for Guzma on Riolu, so he wants to Jet Punch that while he can, or perhaps knock it out with a different Pokemon, but we'll see what he can do.
Right, so there goes a Choice Band going into the hand there with Jirachi. While he's already in his deck, he's going to choose to use Brooklet Hill, so he's going back in to search for more resources. There goes another Buzzwole GX onto the bench. But yeah, I guess, he has the free retreat on the Jirachi, which is active, so he's most likely just going to go back and attack with Buzzwole.
He could have grabbed the Diancie Prism Star, which would have allowed Jet Punch to do 20 more damage here, but decided to just grab another Buzzwole GX. You always have to be careful against Lucario GX, has that cantankerous beatdown GX attack, which does 30 damage for each damage counter on it. So if you put 50 damage on the Riolu, then you might be in trouble if your opponent has Choice Band
Right.
and maybe some other damage modifier. No need to take that risk and potentially walk into a knockout.
Right, but little does Takuya know that actually that unless Joshua starts taking prizes, that Lucario GX is prized. So it's currently not a threat at the moment. So that Riolu is going to be there to be knocked out the next turn, if he can knock it out the next turn. But as you say, yeah, it might have been an option to go for that Diancie, the Prism Star, to try and rack up that damage. There is a lot of spreading going on with this deck, so I guess trying to set up knockouts for this Weavile the following turn.
Yeah, a lot of these decks these days are really trying to end the game as quickly as possible. Whether it's the Zapdos deck, use Thunderous Assault on your first turn, and just try to play Guzma as often as you can. Electro Powers, take knockouts as quickly as you can. Or we've seen the Pikachu and Zekrom deck where you just try to full blitz, power up your Tag Bolt, or even the Rayquaza decks we saw at the beginning where you just try to get a lot of energy in play and really storm your opponent and take quick knockouts. It looks like Takuya's deck is much slower. He's trying to slowly spread damage out, use healing cards like Acerola, Max Potion, and eventually grind his opponent down to the point where he can knock out multiple Pokemon at once and just run his opponent out of resources.
Right, and there he goes for the Guzma there to put Jirachi active. That Jirachi will be able to retreat, so we can go back into Zapdos and take the knockout on that Jirachi for this turn. So he does have that lined up. But he's going for Stellar Wish, which is the optimal play here, to try and dig out more resources in his deck. There is Switch, which might be quite useful for the following turn if he chooses to go back into Zapdos or try to find another way of persistently keep hitting that Thunderous Assault for 80 damage. But so that's kind of what we're looking for. And I don't think has Joshua used Brooklet Hill this turn, because I believe he has outlets to... He might have got that Buzzwole with it. Maybe that's why.
Yeah, he did that on the previous turn, but yeah, at some point, there's just probably not any more fighting Pokemon you want to put on your bench.
Right.
But yeah, if your bench has an open spot, you can always use Brooklet Hill just to look through your deck and see if any important cards are prized or anything like that. Or sometimes shuffling your deck can be useful in rare situations if you know the top cards of your deck.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, but yeah, back into the deck. Let's see what is going to happen. I presume just going for the knockout. There is a switch, so he's gone for a switch on the Zapdos active to take the knockout. Weavile is now in the active spot. So there goes a Choice Band on the Buzzwole, a Fighting Energy, and an Erica as well.
Yeah, I guess to draw 5 cards, not too bad. And already committing that energy to the active Weavile so he can Rule of Evil and take a knockout on the bench Jirachi and hit the other one for 60 damage.
Right.
One of the ways you can really capitalize against these Zapdos decks is by taking away their Jirachi engine. Without Jirachi, the whole deck kind of falls apart. We see it all the time with Alolan Muck, that Power of Alchemy ability. Disabling Jirachi, it just slows the deck to a grinding halt when it just can't keep searching for Guzma and Switch and Electro Power. So Takuya going after those Jirachi with the Rule of Evil. We'll see if it works for him.
Yeah, and as you say, that might be the optimal play here, is just trying and draw out or take down his supply of getting out more resources in this deck. So, but let's see what he's working with here. So he has, is that Electro Power in his hand? So, I mean, I think the Weavile, I mean, does he have knockout this turn is the question. So he needs to be able to retreat that Zapdos. I think he has Switch in hand from the last turn, so he will be able to switch to the bench. The question is whether or not he chooses to, or he is able to switch Zapdos back into the active. I believe, how much HP does the Weavile have? I'm not sure if that's a knockout. Has 90 HP, so that will mean that he needs 1 Electro Power to knock out that Weavile.
Yeah, he doesn't even have an escape board on his Jirachi, though. He needs several cards just to string this together. And, I mean, step 1 is, does he have a switch? I think he may have played it on his previous turn. And it looks like there's some discussion at the table trying to figure out if perhaps Takuya drew one too many cards or something like that. It didn't look like anything was wrong when I was looking. Hopefully everything is in line here, but we'll get that sorted quickly.
Yeah.
So yeah, right now I mean, we are tied in prize cards. Joshua has an opportunity to take a knockout this turn.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of Buzzwole, I remember last year, actually, a lot of players opted not to play Buzzwole or were a bit cautious about it because of Garbodor, because we had Trashallance in the format. That's obviously not played so much anymore, so Buzzwole is a bit more of a safer play, but even still, we don't see much Buzzwole in the format. Just we see the non-GX Buzzwole that is there, which a lot of players are utilizing because you can just have things like fighting energy, or more importantly, things like in a lot of Zapdos variants, they are using things like rainbow energy as well, which can combo very nicely when you have things like Acerola in your deck. So, but yeah, we're just waiting at the moment while we fix the technical issue. The judges are just working on that at the moment.
Yeah, I think we're waiting on a Japanese translator. There seems to be some sort of dispute at the table, and there's a bit of a language barrier. One player from Germany, one player from Japan, so just trying to get a translator involved so we can get to the bottom of this and hopefully solve this quickly. Sometimes there are some tricky situations. Erica's Hospitality can be tricky because there's a limitation on when you can play it. Mm-hmm. And I think they're just trying to get it all sorted out, make sure nothing wrong has happened here.
Right, and I think sometimes the things with that is, in this case, Takuya has already looked into his deck. Well, we are continuing to play here. But yeah, sometimes when that happens, when you do draw additional cards, that can gain more information, so that can also be a factor. He has also looked into his deck, so it's not too much of an issue at this moment. But there goes Buzzwole in the active.
Yeah, it looks like play has resumed, so Joshua deciding to Guzma out that Buzzwole and then retreat. It's like not a great turn for him.
He's not really working with too much. He does have the Electro Power in hand at this moment, but I'm not sure if that's really adding any numbers at this moment. I mean, I guess for Buzzwole, but if he does put on damage, I'm just looking at Takuya does have the Acerola in hand, so not only does he have a means of retreating this Buzzwole, but he also has a means of healing that damage off Buzzwole as well. So that could actually be null and void for this turn, well, for his turn, but he's not really working with too much more. As you can see, he has Lily in hand, Electro Power, 2 Electro Powers, and a Fighting Energy. But I think, yeah, I mean, at best, I think he's two-shotting these Buzzwoles.
Well, this is going to be a huge turn. He has Guzma in hand already, brings out the Riolu that he did 30 damage to earlier. He plays down Jirachi and a skateboard so he can get kind of a free Stellar Wish here, but he has Diancie Prism Star in hand as well, so he can Jet Punch for 50 damage to the active, 30 to the Jirachi on the bench, take a 2-prize knockout, and completely avoid the Sledgehammer turn from his opponent. And wow, even Max Potion to heal off the damage. What an amazing turn.
Wow. And that's the thing, he's utilized the fact that he can use Guzma because he has Max Potion in the hand, so he's been able to use his supporter and obviously just remove that damage. And Max Potion just functions so well with this deck just because, you know, you can see Buzzwole is only utilizing just the 1 energy to attack with. So it's not really so much of a drawback when you do use Max Potion. But just in a really commanding and controlling situation here. So Josh is, I believe, he's called for Brooklet Hill. So he's going through his deck, I guess, for just more resources or to gain more information and also to get another Riolu out as well. But, I mean, if you're Josh in this situation, where do you kind of turn to? I guess you just kind of try and maintain the stream of Zapdos. But every time he's putting damage onto one of those Buzzwole GXs, Takuya is able to heal that damage off with things like Acerola and Max Potion.
Yeah, I think you just need to find a switch, first of all. Without switch, he's unable to get the bonus damage from Thunderous Assault, and it's really limiting his options.
Right, and you can see that he's in a pretty tight situation that he's opted to use 2 Electro Powers there this turn, so it really puts a lot of pressure for him. He has to get a Thunderous Assault off this turn, otherwise, but does he have anything in hand that's going to help him switch? Just trying to look past all those gold cards and see if he has something. I believe no.
Oh, yeah, he just concedes. Wow.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, realizes this game is not worth playing, and Takuya Yoneda takes game 1.
Wow, and
an unusual combination of cards.
Yeah, but I guess that's the thing we were saying in round 1, actually, when we had Alex Deo on stream, is knowing the best time to scoop a match, to concede the match, so you have enough time to recover match or games 2 and 3, which is what Joshua's opted to do in the situation. So we still have something like 35 minutes on the clock. That is enough time, or should be enough time, to get at least one more game in, subject to that game, to even get 2 games in. So Joshua is choosing here to optimize the time to his best, to the best that he can.
Yeah, and he's probably wondering what just happened. My opponent played Buzzwole GX, this Evile that never gets played. Had a max potion when I did damage. It seemed like whatever he did, Takuya had the answer. And of course, that Lucario GX in his prize cards didn't do him any favors. But yeah, on paper, it looks like Buzzwole GX versus Zapdos. It doesn't seem like a good matchup, but when you factor in that you need Jirachi in play for the Zapdos deck to function, and Takuya's deck is excellent at knocking out Jirachi, then this becomes a much closer matchup.
Right, and not only that, but also when you factor in the things that he's playing, things like Max Potion, and he's playing Acerola as well. It's the thing is with these Zapdos decks, as we were saying, they kind of like poke damage. They kind of, hit or deal, for example, 80 damage, and then later you need to follow up with a 2-shot trying to knock out these big GX Pokemon. Whereas in this case, Takuya is really, really taking that away from Joshua in the sense that when he does put any damage onto those Buzzwole GXs, that he's just using things like Max Potion, he's using Acerola, and there is the Lucario again in the prize. Oh, wow. So pretty unlucky if you are Joshua in this respect, because that actually might be one of his outs in in this game, is that he can actually stack up a bit of damage onto perhaps a Lucario GX or onto his Riolu, and then just try and GX attack and knock out a Buzzwole, but he has that prized for the second game in a row.
You do see one Sneasel and a Beast Ring in the prizes for Takuya, but otherwise nothing too important, and we are getting game 2 started here. In round number 4, Joshua is going first. Looks like he is starting off with that Absol and had to attach a lightning energy to it. That's never really where you want to be.
Right. Well, at least that might, I guess, from Joshua's side, try and slow down Takuya a little bit, because as you can see, he starts with a lone Jirachi. So he will be going for Stellar Wish as well. A Volcaner on Joshua's side. Let's see what he opts to go with here. But as you see, he is just going through at this moment, searching his deck for more information. He won't want to take too much time to do this because he is a game down and time is certainly going to be on his mind. So he's playing very quickly, and he's gone for the Nest Ball with the Volcaner, which is getting him the Jirachi.
Yeah, the Absol, it is effective against opposing Jirachi. The Dark Ambition ability makes it so that Escape Board does not give Jirachi the free retreat, but might be a bit of a hindrance in this matchup because it also has an ability. It's also weak to fighting, so it could play into Takuya's strategy of attacking these Pokemon that have abilities and taking multiple knockouts with that Weavile.
Right, and he's gone for to put an Erica's Hospitality into his hand through that Stellar Wish ability. So yeah, I mean, at this point, I guess you try and, well, I mean, Absol is putting in a bit of work here because it helps him to bump up the retreat cost of Takuya's Pokemon, so he will be won't be able to retreat as freely as perhaps he would like to. With Acerola, it does require a damage counter, so he can't use that as well, as Joshua is unable to attack. There goes a Sleep Flip. No Zapdos in play at this moment. No fighting, and no Riolus or anything like that in place. So it doesn't look like a great start from Joshua's side that he has in his hand, but let's see what Takuya goes with here. So he goes with Brooklet Hill, which actually on Joshua's turn he can actually utilize Brooklet Hill as he is playing fighting Pokemon as well. Takuya is going to go through his deck. He's just having a quick look, very quickly going through his deck to work out what is prized, what is not prized, but is going to opt to get the Buzzwole GX.
Yeah, I think he's hoping to get a Jet Punch on the first turn here. Maybe ideally with an Escape Rope. If he can pull that Absol into the active spot, Jet Punch, hit it for weakness, and do 60 and then 30 to the bench Jirachi. It really sets him up to take knockouts in future turns.
Right, he does actually have the Escape Rope in hand, so he will be looking to use it this turn. So yeah, and I mean that's not only does that obviously go, not only does that target the Absol, but also takes away the added threat of having your Jirachis kind of locked down a bit, forcing switching cards to get them out of the active spot and using Stellar Wish. It's just looking at his hand here. Okay, he's just shuffling his deck. So there goes a choice band on to Buzzwole GX. Escape Rope, which as we kind of predicted, will be hitting for weakness. There goes Erica's, which is just for 1 card.
Just 2, yeah.
For 2 cards, sorry. Which he does get the fighting energy. Wow.
That's exactly what he needed. Okay. Yeah, that was going to be a very awkward turn if he just had to pass with no energy, but...
Right.
Oh, he even gets Diancie Prism Star, so he can Jet Punch for 100 and knock out this Absol in the first turn of the game.
Right, and that Jirachi is going to be taking a bit of damage as well. So unless Joshua gets something into play that is going to... I mean, well, he's going to have his last Pokemon knocked out. So let's see what he's working with here. I mean, he's not... he does have a hand, I think, of something usable. So he's got Brooklet Hill, which is going to get him at least a basic to make sure his last Pokemon isn't knocked out. At this point, I mean, he only has really 1 target in the deck, but maybe he's just searching through for more information. He's looking for something that might look to counter this Buzzwole.
Yeah, I think he's looking to grab Riolu, but once again, you can see he's shaking his head. He sees Lucario GX is in his prize card, so once again, that will not be an option for him in this matchup. And
right.
If you see that, you might want to go for the non-GX Buzzwole instead, although that might be prized as well. I don't know. I think it is, yeah.
Well, so yeah, at this point, I think, you just have to get a basic Pokemon into play just to make sure that that Jirachi isn't knocked out, and then you would concede the game. So, but here, actually, looking at his really shiny hand, we see... What is that? Is that a Tapu Koko GX? Yes, a Tapu Koko GX.
It's hard to tell when they're all gold.
Right, exactly. I just see them. I think the sleeves are more or less the same color as well, which makes it even more difficult. But
he's got his theming down.
Right, yeah, he's got it down. But yeah, I mean, at this point, what is he going for? I mean, if he Erica's, he's going for what, like 2 or 3 cards here? Which,
yeah, and he can't even really play his hand down to use Erica in the first place.
Right.
He still has a Stellar Wish available. I think ideally he wants to get Zapdos out and attack this turn, but he's still a few cards short.
Right, and as you can see, he has gone for the Viridian Forester. He's going to... he's got a Lightning Energy Enhanced Stellar Wish. See what he gets. There is a Volcana. I think Volcana might be quite useful at this point.
Yeah, he can also grab Nest Ball. That guarantees him a Zapdos.
Right.
So he'll at least be able to attack this turn. He's got all the cards to do it. Just trying to figure out what's the best option. Do you go for Volkner, set yourself up for the next turn, or just grab Nest Ball and try to play Guzma this turn?
Right, so there is the Nest Ball. So he's opted to go with that Nest Ball going back into the deck. We assume searching for the Zapdos, which will get a bit of damage on the Buzzwole. So there is Zapdos, I believe. Is that a Staff Zapdos as well?
Probably.
It doesn't surprise me, but...
it looks like I can see the little gold stamp
right,
there, yeah.
The little gold print. But yeah, so he's going for the Zapdos. And yeah, so he has the energy in hand. So that goes down. And he has a switch as well, which will at least get... he's going for Guzma instead.
Yeah, wants to start taking prize cards. And after he saw the Max Potion in the first game, might be a little sheepish about hitting the Buzzwole GX for not a knockout.
Right. I guess that's kind of the issue. Yeah, so that Buzzwole is actually prized as well, as you were saying. So that is not an option at this point. He will... Maybe he's... there's a judge.
All right.
Maybe he's even thinking to himself to try and take some really quick knockouts to try and get that Lucario GX out of his prizes. It's a pretty long shot, I guess you'd have to say, because, I mean, when you have 6 prizes, the probability isn't in your favor, but maybe that's one strategy he's opting for as well. There is a Buzzwole in there too.
Yeah, and Takuya playing this Judge here. Judge, we don't see a ton of it anymore. We mostly see Marshadow with Let Loose in its place because most decks can afford to take the bench space to do that. But Takuya is playing a much more defensive deck where he doesn't want to have that Marshadow on his bench for easy prizes later. Instead, opting to play Judge, which is actually pretty effective in this kind of a situation where you really force your opponent to have a switching card to attack with Zapdos for relevant damage.
Right. And it was a bit... I didn't see Takuya's hand, what he managed to get. I think he put his hand down very quickly. But in Josh's hand, I do see a Volkner there, so there is, I guess, some out to doing something on his hand. He's got a Tapu Koko there, and is that an Escape Rope?
Yeah, he's got a lot of options.
Right. So, and he's got the Escape Board as well, so he can put the Escape Board down on the Jirachi. He can retreat using escape. Well, I guess it depends really. Well, as you say, maybe he's going for the escape rope on Zapdos. Sorry, the escape board on Zapdos.
Yeah, I think he doesn't want to escape rope because hitting Diancie Prism Star for 80 damage doesn't seem great. Getting a 2-hit knockout on a non-GX Pokemon just doesn't feel very good. He has one Electro Power in hand. He could escape rope and then Volcaner for the second one and try to double Electro Power and get rid of Diancie Prism Star, but then his opponent can simply attach and Knuckle Impact with this Buzzwole GX. I don't know, it just seems like a tough card for the Zapdos deck to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like everything that Josh does, Takuya kind of has an answer for at this moment. So maybe he's contemplating Dance of the Ancient here. Although it's very difficult to see. Takuya has kept his hand down, so it's very difficult to see what is in his hand and what he's working with at this moment. So might be that he has judged himself into a bad hand. That could be an opening for Josh. I mean, if he doesn't have access to using things like Acerola and Max Potion, then that is Josh's moment to kind of take advantage of the situation and try and to two-shot this Buzzwole GX. But he has opted to go for Escape Rope, which puts Diancie in the active spots. There goes Stellar Wish, so he's trying to maximize, trying to get as many resources out. There is, I think he has the option of a Nest Ball or a Switch. I'm not sure if I saw something else in there. There's a Guzma there as well, and a Lily. So he's got quite a few options here to choose from.
Yeah, he'll certainly be able to attack this turn. It's just, what does he want to attack? He has Viridian Forest as an option if he needs to find an energy or anything like that. He could have taken Guzma and gone after that Buzzwole GX, but looks like he might want to just knock out this Diancie Prism Star with that Princess's Cheer ability. It does add 20 damage to all of Takuya's fighting Pokemon's attacks, so makes Jet Punch a little scarier, makes the non-GX Buzzwole a little scarier, so maybe just taking a prize card here and clearing that Prism Star card off the board could be helpful.
Right, and I guess Josh can try and capitalize here if Takuya does have a bad hand. If he does, that will be his moment.
Volcaner needs to go to the discard pile.
Does...
played it and then brought it back to his hand.
Oh, okay.
So hopefully we can get that resolved.
Right, so yeah, he does have the Volcaner in hand. We will try and inform the judges of that just to make sure that is corrected. But he does, in the meantime, actually go for, does actually pick out that Lucario GX. So now he has options of evolving that Riolu into Lucario GX. So that might be an out to knocking out this Buzzwole here.
Oh, okay, we got it resolved. Volcaner is in the discard pile.
Great, so the judges have picked up on that. Great, so, but in terms of this, well, I have to try and think what was in Josh's hand because I'm not sure if he has another supporter in there. I saw the Volcaner. I wasn't sure if I saw something else in there. There goes Buzzwole. Buzzwole is going to hit the bench. So really, at this point, Takuya is looking... There he has a Cynthia in hand too. So he's looking for that last energy, which will hopefully aim to try and get the knockout on this Zapdos. I think he really needs to start applying the pressure at this point and really force Josh to have more answers to tackling this Buzzwole.
Yeah, he's going to get his Sledgehammer Buzzwole down. His opponent is at 4 prize cards, so Sledgehammer will do the bonus damage on this turn if he can find a way to move his Buzzwole GX from the active to the bench. He could simply attach a third energy and use that Knuckle Impact attack for the knockout, but that gets a little scary when you have 3 energy in play. You can have that Tapu Koko GX swoop in and use Tapu Thunder GX with enough choice bands and electro powers. It can be a one-hit knockout, so you always have to be wary of not putting down too much energy against these lightning decks.
Right, and yeah, I've just seen in Josh's hand, he does have a Lily in hand, so he has access to drawing out of this hand for next turn. Another factor I guess Takuya might want to consider is that if you are committing, I think he's just going for the
Jet Punch knockout.
Right. Yeah, so but
this is smart, playing around that Tapu Koko GX, not putting yourself in danger. Although I guess if your opponent's going to have Electro Power Choice Band, they can just Sky High Claws for 190 anyway. You don't need to use the GX attack, so I guess there's not really much to play around there, but yeah, it looks like he's just conserving his energy because he had one in hand, but might want to save it in case he has to play a Max Potion.
Right, and that's another thing that I was thinking is that, yeah, if you do commit another energy to this Buzzwole, that's going to make you pretty, I guess it's pretty, I don't want to say wasteful, but you don't want to use Max Potion and have to discard all 3 energy attached to a Buzzwole. So that might be something else that's that is very cautious on his mind as well. But yeah, so he's opting just to go for the damage, to spread the damage around the bench. And I think... yeah, I mean, there's no more Jirachi to take knockouts on, so that might be what he has to.
What does he do now? There's no Jirachi to knock out.
Yeah, right.
What's he going to take prizes on now?
Right. I mean, that just sets up really nicely because you can just obviously 2-shot, but he has. Yeah, there is a Jirachi in hand, but perhaps Josh is thinking that that's not really. It's really difficult to say at this point because, I mean, Josh really wants to be utilizing Jirachi to keep using Stellar Wish over and over. But if he does that, that Buzzwole is just going to keep knocking out those Jirachis. So it's really making him have to think about, he's attached for the turn. He tried to attach, has already attached to the Zapdos, which has been called up on.
And he cannot switch his Zapdos out, so he just has to Thunderous Assault for 10 damage.
Right.
That is not as fierce as the 80 damage we're used to.
Right, and there's a Choice Band in hand. He can bump it up a little bit if he wants to, but not really doing anything at the moment. So
yeah, that might have been worth doing. Hitting for 40 instead of 10 allows you to get in range of things like Lucario GX's Aura Strike, plus another Choice Band. So it might be worth doing it there, but yeah, it certainly doesn't feel good to just hit for 40 damage even. It makes sense to try to save it for a more explosive turn.
Right, absolutely, yeah. And there is another Buzzwole GX hitting the bench there. But, I mean, we have like a little under 20 minutes on the clock. Josh really, at this moment, is playing for, I guess... I mean, he doesn't really look like he's really making much advance on this round. So there goes Buzzwole. That Sledgehammer does become active because of the amount of prize cards taken.
Right.
So,
Joshua was not able to take a knockout on his turn, so he's stuck at 4 for an additional turn.
Right.
And, I mean, I don't know if there's an easy way for him to get a knockout on his next turn either, so we could just see Sledgehammer repeatedly taking knockouts.
Right. I mean, he's hoping for something like a switch or an escape rope or something like that, which will help him to try and get the most out of that Thunderous Assault. But, I mean, this makes it really difficult when you are in a situation and when you cannot bench your Jirachis for this reason. I mean, you've got 3 Buzzwoles staring you down here, which really makes it difficult to put down that Jirachi. But, I mean, you really, from Josh's side, rely on having that escape board, switching in and out consistently with those Zapdos. And as you can see, he is not able to do that, which is only, putting 10 damage at the moment. So... I guess from Josh's side, what do you do? Do you go down the Lucario route? Do you try and get a little bit of damage on there in GX attack? But then, I don't know, it's really... Okay,
I don't know if there's a good answer.
Yeah.
I mean, you can get Lucario GX, but you're only hitting for 120 with Aura Strike. You're 10 short of a knockout on the active. It feels like a really ugly situation. He could get the Tapu Koko GX and Sky High Claws for a knockout, but then Takuya's Buzzwole GX can come out and use Knuckle Impact. It's already got the Choice Band.
Right. And I guess in this...
Not a pretty situation.
It's pretty difficult for Joshua at this moment to see what he's thinking. He's going for... Yeah, so he's going for an Erica here. Erica's Hospitality. He will be drawing cards to see if there's something. There's a Tapu Koko, which is not really doing too much at the moment. I mean, the thing is, when you concede that Tapu Koko, that can get knocked out back. That puts Takuya down to 1 prize card. It's, again, a very not nice situation to be in. I mean, yeah, there's a Viridian Forest in hand. You could put that down over Brooklet Hill, but, Takuya has already got his Buzzwoles on the bench there. Is he holding back the Lucario GX just for a reason? To try and be conservative?
I believe he's already attached for the turn, and he didn't play a Fighting Energy. He played Lightning, so he couldn't even Aura Strike if he wanted to. So he's just going to have to attack with Zapdos here with Thunderous Assault for 80. Fortunately, the Zapdos has resistance to fighting, so it won't be knocked out by a Sledgehammer. It'll have 10 HP remaining, but if Takuya is able to find Guzma, it could easily just to get another knockout.
Right, and there goes down to the Ancient, so that means that he is able to take some Lightning Energy from his discard pile and put them onto his bench Pokemon. Yeah, so I guess Thunderous Assault here will go for 80 damage. I don't believe he's played any Electro Power this turn. So I think he's, 2 Electro Power short from taking a knockout here.
Right.
So at this moment... okay, so there goes Beast Ring.
Oh, yeah. Takuya is going to shut the door on this game on this turn, I think. So has the Beast Ring in hand, can power up a second Buzzwole GX with that incredibly powerful item card, and also drew Beast Energy for the turn.
Wow.
So he can attach that to his active Buzzwole if he wants, and Sledgehammer for the knockout because it gets plus 30 damage. There's an argument for actually just attacking with your Buzzwole GX at this point, because the only things that can really knock out Buzzwole GX in one hit on your opponent's side are Tapu Koko GX, things that give up multiple prize cards. So it feels like no matter what Takuya attacks with, he's going to be able to close out the game before Josh can.
Right, and Takuya also has a Acerola in hand as well, so any damage that does get put on from Josh's side, I mean, he's very... I say reluctantly trying to attack, but any damage that he does put, Takuya can just reverse that damage anyway because he has so many healing cards in his deck. Not that it really matters at this point because Joshua still has to take 4 more prize cards. But I mean, Takuya is just in such a commanding position at the moment.
Absolutely. And you see exactly how he got to this 3-0 record and why he is regarded as one of the best players in the world. Takuya Yoneda bringing this Buzzwole GX deck, a card that has kind of fallen out of favor in the standard format for a while. Bring it kind of out of nowhere, and we do see the Acerola picking up that Buzzwole. We're going to see Knuckle Impact for the knockout. Our Japanese player goes down to 2 prize cards and has 2 Buzzwole GX powered up already. I think he's just in complete control. I'm
really not too sure what Josh can do here. I mean, it's a pretty unfortunate situation to be in. But I guess, yeah, even at this point, not only is he behind in the game, but he also has to take a game this round in, at least to get a tie at the very minimum.
Yeah, I mean, he could... if he plays Tapu Koko GX, I think the game is basically over. It's on board for Takuya. He's got the choice band. He would just need 1 energy to win the game. Lucario GX, I guess, could be a reasonable option. You can Aura Strike, but even then, it's a Pokemon GX. Gives up 2 prizes. It just feels so risky. Feels like there's probably some way your opponent can take advantage of that. If you attack with Zapdos, you're not doing enough damage to take a knockout. Your opponent's just going to overwhelm you at some point, so...
Right.
It just doesn't look like there's any great option in his deck.
No, it's just an unfortunate matchup in this respect because not only are you not able, I mean, you'd have to use, 2 or 3 Electro Powers to try and get a knockout here. Well, even 3 or 4, but yeah, and it's just not feasible at this point. I mean, Tapu Koko becomes kind of an option here, but even then, you just take the knockout back. There goes Lucario GX. So fighting energy. But, yeah, I mean, at least he's kind of applying some kind of pressure. Maybe he can try and to stall out a little bit. Maybe he can try and trap this Buzzwole active because it does have a pretty hefty retreat cost. Get a knockout on this Buzzwole and then try and follow that up. Because, I mean, in Josh's, from Josh's perspective, if he can take only 2 more knockouts, so if he could knock out 1 Buzzwole and then another one straight after, that would be enough to close the game. But it doesn't look like he is in a position where he's going to be able to do that. Not to mention that Takuya has not used his GX attack for the game either.
Yeah, although at this point, the Absorption GX, it kind of scales down as the game goes on. It does 40 damage for each of your remaining prize cards, so that's not really going to do a whole lot here. He does draw Escape Rope for the turn, though. He had no way to switch his Pokemon out until he just drew that exact card, and now he can move his Buzzwole GX that was stranded, and I mean, he can pretty much take a knockout with whatever Pokemon he wants. He can set up his non-GX Buzzwole and Sledgehammer, because Joshua still hasn't gotten off of 4 prize cards. He's been stuck there for an eternity, or he could just send up a Buzzwole GX and Knuckle Impact. It probably is irrelevant at this point. All that matters is that he takes a knockout this turn.
Right, and if Takuya takes a knockout on something this turn, he can then probably follow up with something like a Guzma the following turn to take out that Jirachi. There goes Sneasel there. I think that the lack of threat from Josh's side encourages or is allowing Takuya to put down a Pokemon that is weak. Oh, there goes Max Push. Wow.
Not bad.
Yeah. Well, we wanted something crazy. These Japanese players, and to say the least, I think that, this certainly... there goes the GX attack there.
Might as well use it while you can. 80 damage from that Absorption GX. Clears him up to use Knuckle Impact on the following turn. And, yeah, there's 2 fully powered Buzzwole GX ready to go. Joshua needs to take 4 prize cards still. Takuya only needs to take 1 at this point.
Right, and I think if you're on Josh's side here, I think you just take it as like, hey, it's just a bad matchup. There's still a lot more Pokemon to play. Let's just kind of take it on the chin and move on from this, because I think this is not a good matchup on Josh's side. I mean, this deck that Takuya has not only kind of counteracts the most popular deck in the format, but it just has so many answers to things that do not one-shot you. I mean, if you do damage, there goes...
He's going to go out with a bang at least.
Well, yeah, so, and there goes the Buzzwole.
Yeah, he's going to Sky High Claws for the knockout, and if Takuya has 1 energy, which he does, he can Knuckle Impact
that is the game
for the knockout, and Takuya Yoneda with his Buzzwole GX Rule of Evil Weavile deck is now 4-0 at the Europe International Championships, traveling here all the way from Japan and trying to take down this tournament. What an excellent display there to show us what kind of crazy stuff you can come up with.
Right, and I mean, I've been to plenty of tournaments myself where I've seen Japanese players come to these tournaments with usually some kind of wacky invention that they've made up that, like, we all have the cards, we all have the same pool of cards to choose from, but for some reason or some way, they find ways of being innovative in the current format that we've had. And it's really incredible, some of the strategies and some of the decks and archetypes they're able to think up here. So, but we were saying actually the Regigigas deck is a great counter to a lot of these Zapdos variants. Well, why not Buzzwole with Max Potion and Acerola, right?
I guess so, yeah.
So
whatever works.
Yeah, and but it's just such a, as you saw in that matchup. Takuya was in such control of that match. I mean, he was able to soak up any damage that Josh was able to apply, reverse it with something like Max Potion with Acerola, switching cards, and even, he was able to take to concede and take prizes where necessary to use things like Buzzwole, to use things like Beast Ring, and overall just a very, very powerful deck that we've seen here today.
It's amazing to me how little he actually did in each game. It was mostly just like a Jet Punch here, Jet Punch there, set up 2-hit knockouts here, and then it was kind of crazy how quickly it was like, oh yeah, your tiny little attacks have added up to multiple prize cards, and now you're in a position where you can play Beast Ring. Right. It felt like he was doing almost nothing every turn. It's similar to his Zapdos deck, where it's just like play an energy and attack, and he's doing it with Jet Punch, and just neutralizing his opponent's plays with Max Potion and Acerola. It's a very interesting deck. I'm curious to see how he's going to do as the tournament progresses, and if there are any bad matchups out there for him. I can't really think of one off the top of my head. Maybe a Regigigas deck would be a pain for him, but otherwise seems like he's got a pretty good handle on this metagame.
Right, and I think one of the cards of the tournament is that Jirachi, as we've seen so many matches here. I think most of our feature matches, if all the decks play Jirachi in the feature, I think -1, which might have been the Zoroark build. The
Rayquaza decks in the first round don't have it either. But
oh, that's true, yeah. So,
all the Lightning decks so far have had Jirachi.
There are so many Jirachi variants, just because it's so versatile and you're able to take things from your deck. There's vital resources, and Buzzwole really capitalizes on that, because you can just do 30 damage and then follow it up the next turn with 30 more damage, which gets you the knockout on Jirachi. So really capitalizing on the format at the moment.
Yeah, and apparently 190 HP Pokemon is just too tough to knock out these days. I don't know. Whatever it is, Buzzwole GX, you just... at first glance, I really didn't know how it was going to match up against Zapdos, but it turns out Zapdos doesn't do very well against Buzzwole either, so it's all kind of a push, and then Buzzwole can prey on those Jirachi on the bench.
Right, and yeah, I mean, that just disrupts Zapdos so much because Zapdos relies on not only digging out those things like Electro Powers, not only digging out things like Switch, Escape Rope, it needs to retreat, otherwise you're doing very minimal damage and really, takes away the synergy of the deck, if you like, if you're able to target down those Jirachis, which is exactly what he did.
Yeah, and, he's also got a bit of surprise factor on his side. At this point, you kind of expect all the decks to be known. We're pretty deep into this format, like 2 or 3 months, and it just feels like, okay, I'm going to play against the Pikachu and Zekrom deck, the Zapdos Jirachi deck, the Zoroark Lycanroc, maybe some Malamar here or there, and there's not really a matchup that catches you off guard. You've probably play-tested against everything at this point, and when your opponent flips over Buzzwole GX, you're like, oh, that's not one I've come across in my testing, huh?
Right. Okay. It's okay, yeah, I'll just do a bit of damage. Okay, Max Potion. Okay, SO Rollers. Yeah. There are some times that you just have to accept that people find ways of being innovative in such a small pool of cards to choose from, and we have no idea how he managed to come up with this deck, but we do have one person